Hello, and welcome to A Wise Mind podcast presented by Sabino Recovery. Today, I'm joined by Andrew and Lisa Reichel, founders of Room to Heal, a recovery home for men struggling with intimacy disorders and pornography addiction. To start, could you two introduce yourselves and speak a little bit about Room to Heal?
I'm Andrew Reichel.
Lisa Reichel, and we are the owners of Room to Heal.
So Room to Heal is a recovery residence specifically for men battling pornography addiction, sex addiction, and intimacy disorders.
Can you share a little bit about your background and what brought you to create Room to Heal?
Absolutely. So Room to Heal is really born out of our own personal story and, my story of recovering from addiction, and Lisa's story recovering from betrayal trauma. Right. Yeah. And so, when I really finally got traction with this, it was a combination of, going to inpatient treatment, but then, really spending time at a sober living home afterwards. And the sober living home that I went to had a sensitivity towards guys battling sex addiction. And really, while I was gone working on myself, Lisa had the opportunity to take the time to really dig into her own healing journey from betrayal trauma. And when I got back, we really had reestablished maybe a newer relationship, one that had kind of left behind, past unhealthy dynamics, right? We had a bit of a parent-child dynamic going on. And, Lisa really chose to move forward with me because she was able to see the progress that I had made. And I was probably a year and a half back selling real estate. And Lisa said, hey, there need to be more places like where you went to after your inpatient treatment, sober living homes that really cater to and specialize with this particular struggle with sex addiction and porn addiction. And so she said, we need to start one. And I said, you are crazy.
Yes.
No way. No way.
I do not give up. I do not give up easily.
No. This is very true. Yeah. And so over time, doors just kind of started opening. We had to find the right space. I definitely attribute some of it to, maybe my higher power convicting me that hey, this is the direction that he wants us to go. And a lot of things started opening up. And I got my coaching license and specializing in this particular struggle with guys. And we opened our doors, was it May? Yeah, May of 2021. Yep. Yeah. So we've been open over 3.5 years now.
It's a hard time to open your doors. What were some of the struggles you guys dealt with bringing the facility to life?
Yeah, well, I think initially the struggle was residents, right? Using the power of, recovery residence or a sober living home or transitional living, for this particular struggle really hadn't been done very much. And so really presenting the model, right, as a newer approach to helping guys with intimacy disorders was maybe met with a little bit of resistance among the 12-step community. It took a little while for therapists to wrap their heads around it. So we didn't really get our first resident until, was it September? Yeah, we had a few guys come stay with us that, I knew who maybe needed a spot. But yeah, it was touch and go for a little while.
It was. I just want to reiterate that sober living doesn't exist for this addiction. And it's crazy because it's an intimacy disorder. And so living with other people that, can empathize with you and understand you, it just makes sense. I felt like there was this hole in recovery, and I feel that space is this missing element for many couples. And I really wanted to start it because I was seeing women that weren't healing, and they really felt trapped in their circumstances. And I wanted to give them an option that felt safe and was affordable, where he could see the kids.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, Lisa. I mean, being on the side where we're trying to find resources for a client discharging, it's just they're almost non-existent. A sober living home for sex addiction, pornography addiction, those intimacy issues, they are far and few between. And a lot of them that do market themselves as such are not. They're a substance abuse sober living home, and we can do that. But to focus on that, to specialize on that is very rare and very needed. So Room to Heal is known for a targeted approach to sex and pornography addiction. How are you different than generalized recovery programs, generalized sober living homes?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think on the front end, we really, really take care to make sure that the environment's conducive to guys that are struggling, with pornography and sex addiction. So from a pragmatic standpoint, neurologically, we really create space, have a bit of a digital detox on the front end. So, we use software called Covenant Eyes, which is on all the guys' devices. All our TVs, don't have browsers. We've got the TVs locked down pretty well so that they can't access anything inappropriate. And, a lot of guys, who have struggled maybe, with escorts, with prostitutes, we have Life 360 GPS tracking on all the guys' devices. So there's some very pragmatic measures that we have in place. Guys have to turn in their phones and all their electronic devices to our house leader every night at 10 o'clock. And so from a programming standpoint, there's front-end pragmatic stuff, and we are very firm that that is not the answer. We're trying to create a neurological environment to dig into the deeper root causes of this struggle, always rooted in trauma, creating the environment where guys can really dig into that deeper inner child work, get to the root causes and really begin to heal at the core level. So, what we found is sometimes, guys will maybe only do accountability software. They'll only do the pragmatic, or we'll see guys that maybe only do, deep trauma work. But we found that it's the combination of both that really leads to breakthroughs on the front end, but then lasting change long term. It's kind of like, you got an alcoholic who maybe is really understanding the core causes, but if he keeps hanging out at a bar every night, he's going to struggle to get sober and stay sober.
Well, we care for the families. And there is no hurt greater in my mind than betrayal trauma. And most sober living homes don't really address the wives' needs. And so we've developed a way for the partner to get support. She has a partner coach. You get to be in group with other women who have husbands who are staying at Room to Heal. And we also support the relational dynamics. We walk the couple through a boundary agreement to make sure that she feels safe. We can add in additional measures, to help her. I mean, if a partner has a good night's sleep in the first few weeks, that is such a win. Like that, we want to make everyone feel safe enough to heal.
And you hit on a wonderful topic, which is betrayal trauma. It's such a unique trauma. How does it, in both your opinions, differ from trauma in terms of its emotional and psychological impact?
So I have been through betrayal trauma more than once, which is painful to say, but it makes me a fierce advocate of these ladies who are going through it. And men go through it too. I don't leave that out. It is when you are wounded so deeply, when you're deceived by someone who is supposed to be your person, the person that is supposed to be there for you and care for you, it destabilizes your entire life. It throws your identity out of whack.
It's like what you've known to be true is no longer true. And so like the very foundation with which you've built your life on has shattered, right? And, and I'm speaking from what I've seen. I'll never know what it feels like. And that's what I tell all the guys I work with, is, I think sometimes a quick response for guys when, maybe their partners are struggling and say, hey, I understand. No, you don't understand. We'll never understand, But yeah, I think everything that has been known, right? Like,
mm-hmm. I would say it's different too, because with the trauma, like losing someone, your friends and family step in like crazy and they're giving you a meal train and they're making sure that you're taken care of. But
yeah, if there's like a death in the family or something like that. Yeah, that kind of trauma.
But when your husband's betrayed you, you're not getting that help. You're actually responsible for more, especially if, they're going away or they're not, or,
It's too often, partners are having to do it alone, right? And so we've got resources and support in place so that they don't have to do it alone. We still want to give them the option to choose, but man, we really encourage them to lean into the support that we provide for them.
Yeah, and there's also a sensitivity to victim blaming. Mm. So a lot of women don't tell anyone. They deal with it in isolation because in the society, whenever you say, my husband's been unfaithful, the first thing they ask you is, what have you done wrong? What are you not doing for him? And the truth is, with this addiction, you can be doing everything perfectly. None of us are perfect, but you could be doing it perfectly, and you would still end up in this scenario.
Betrayal trauma is such a unique trauma because if you want the relationship to work, it's something you have to work through, but not only you, your partner has to work through it as well. It is such a complex trauma to address, and it takes so much diligent and consistent and continuous work. What are some common issues you see related to trust and communication, and how do you address them between your client and their partner?
It's a great question.
I'll let you answer it.
Yeah, I mean, I think oftentimes what we'll see is there will be a relational dynamic in place when, the guy pursuing recovery comes to us. And at times it can be hard to break that without very clear, firm boundaries. So at the beginning of every resident that comes to stay with us, we work with them and their partner with the document called Intentional Time Apart. And what we do with that document is we really lay the groundwork and the foundation and the framework for this time that they're taken apart. Like, what does the partner need to feel safe? Because if we don't have that, it can be very easy for them to fall back, even though there's some physical space separating them. This opportunity where he's with us is also for you to get the space that you need to heal. Right. And you guys both need this time apart. And so it can be easy for them to fall back into that, relational pattern they've been stuck in for a long time. Right. If we don't address those things.
Yes. And when you are rebuilding trust, there's a lot of learning for the guys. And so he might not understand why she wants him to check in or to come forward with something that, may have seemed like a little white lie. But everything is major for this because she's looking for signs that he's healing, that he's different, that he's not going to do that to me again. Yeah. And it's hard for a guy to meet those needs.
Yeah.
In these dynamics, too, it's hard because he has been her person. And when she's sad, when she's upset, she goes to him. And what do you do when when your person to go to for comfort has caused the pain? And so couples just kind of go back and forth, and it can be an ugly dynamic.
Yeah. That's a great question you're raising. Like, what do you do? So what are some of the therapies and modalities that you often want, ideally see integrated in for your residents working on their sex and pornography addiction, as well as for the residents' partners? What kind of therapies are you imploring that they do and work that they pursue?
Well, I think, on a foundational level, it's really important that we work on the basics, right? So, with the guys that are, these guys that are early in recovery that stay with us, they really get the opportunity to kind of work on skills like reflective listening, like AVRing, acknowledge, validate, and reaffirm. And then in the groups that we run at the house with the guys, they get the opportunity to work on them with each other, because it's a really safe environment for maybe them to try out these listening skills and communication skills that maybe they've never had, so that when they do interact with their partner, they're actually using something that they've started to fine tune and learn how to do. So, basic communication skills are really, really important. And then we have a curriculum for the guys that we use called IRCM. It's based on Carol Sheets' work, Help Her Heal and Help Them Heal. And IRCM stands for Early Recovery Couples Empathy Model, where we're really teaching the guy, like, this is the pain that's been caused by your actions, and this is how you start to show up for her. And so we're really, really working with them on, they'll never fully understand the pain, but they can grow in their sensitivity and empathy to, what they've caused. And so we use that curriculum, and we found that to be really effective so far in helping guys understand on an intellectual level what they've caused, and then tools on how to show up differently for her.
Yeah, and what are the guys doing in therapy? We don't offer therapy, but all of our guys are in therapy and get to choose their therapist.
Yeah. Well, I think, from a therapeutic standpoint, it's so important that they dig into their root trauma. So they're learning, like, what triggers them, what brings things up in them that cause them to not show up for their partner. And that can lead to a lot of clarity, like a really, really powerful tool that, when guys start to use it, they realize it's just taking a pause. It's like when you're in a difficult conversation with your partner and things are escalating, and I can tell that I'm starting to lose it, saying, hey, I need to take 30 minutes. This has taken me to a place where I'm not going to love you the way that I want to love you, right? Can we revisit this in 30 minutes or tomorrow morning? Or, taking that pause so that things don't go to a place where the old patterns are going to start to show up again, right? So I'm just giving an example.
Yeah, as far as the betrayed partner goes, she really needs to be working on grounding in therapy or with her coach, making sure that when she's in fight or flight, she can identify it and bring it back down and have strategies to do that on her own. Once she's working through that, then it starts to, the grief process hits hard. Women enter the grief process quicker when he's staying at Room to Heal, and that is so hard, but
But it's so integral to their healing, right?
Yes. Yeah. It means that you're kind of out of the spin cycle that you go into when you first discover all of this. And you're so caught up with, what is he doing? Where is he going? Just trying to take care of the basics, like, treading water. And then when you get that quiet, it hits you how unfair this whole situation is and how much impacted you is good. Higher level work for managing triggers. I love EMDR and did a lot of that myself, and it really helped me work through some of my biggest fears of what might happen next. And then a big piece of therapy and coaching is preparing for the disclosure process. You really have to be ready to hear his full truth. You need to think about what questions you need to know and what you don't need to know. And it's a whole preparation process that I highly recommend.
Yeah. And it needs to be led by, a competent, experienced clinician or coach that's well-versed in the disclosure process and how to go about it in the right way.
Yeah. I think you hit on two things that I know personally in my life have done nothing but been beneficial. And that's just approaching situations from an empathetic standpoint and taking that moment when you need it, but being able to recognize that you do need that moment and, self-regulate. I'm thrilled to hear that so many of the women in the program are doing EMDR. It's such a strong modality and so beneficial and quickly beneficial, which I'm sure is critical in situations that a lot of your residents find themselves in. I'm sure a lot of couples have the fear if they attend your program that their relationship will not survive it because of their disclosure, because of their distance, because of whatever reason. What has been your experience and what do you guys see?
I get that, and I cannot wait until people can see that space is the great accelerator and healing. One of the things that's been researched and documented is that healing after infidelity requires you to let the previous relationship kind of die and let a new one grow in its place. And so I understand the fear because you are letting go of the past. But once you take that plunge, you are giving him space to grow and see if he is going to sink or swim. And that is what I want for women. I wish we could heal every marriage, but if women are feeling like really stuck and not knowing which way to go, the time at Room to Heal really shows you, like, can he get better? The majority, of guys do, and it's amazing. And, it also gives you time to figure out what you want and need and figure out what kind of guy do I want back? What am I willing to, go with? Our marriage is so beautiful because of the time we had apart.
And what we did with that time apart, right? I mean, I was really invested in my recovery and still am. And you were invested in your recovery from the betrayal that I'd caused, right? And I think, human nature is to gravitate towards what's comfortable and what's familiar, right? But too often, what's comfortable and what's familiar has kept us trapped and stuck in unhealthy patterns, unhealthy relationships. And so, when we see, the courageousness required to do something like Room to Heal, or to do something like Sabino, we already see the fertile soil with which change can take place, right? Change can grow. And I think, for people that are scared of making that, of taking that plunge or, making that change, I think it's just so important to remember that nothing worthwhile, takes place without difficulty. Right. And really on some level, that first step, that picking up the phone and calling the admission staff at Sabino or calling Room to Heal is oftentimes the toughest, right? But you start the ball rolling, you start to have the conversations, and man, just trust the process because it does work. Time apart does work. Being able to come out to beautiful Tucson, really taking some time for yourself, stepping into, the modalities and into the arms of the people that are really wanting to help you change your life. It does work. It really does.
Yeah. I mean, the majority, almost all of the couples we've had have grown themselves and have created greater intimacy and have a better relationship with their spouse than they ever thought possible, because that level of connection wasn't possible when they weren't emotionally healthy. And living together kept them trapped in cycles that kept them from that growth.
Change is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. And I don't think you'll find one person that will tell you it's not worth it, that has gone through the process and come out the other side and not been thrilled that they did do the hard work that it requires. And I'll be the first to say, I wish I could have, pursued my recovery journey in bed and in pajamas and doing as little work as possible, but that's not the reality. Can you tell us what a day-to-day schedule for your residents would look like?
Sure. Yeah. So we got programming most evenings because part of our model is we want guys working. We want guys dealing with real life, real world triggers and stressors. So, guys wake up usually around 6:30 and they have a specific morning routine that's focused on connecting with themselves, building self-awareness, connecting with their higher power. So, there's a meditation, there's a little devotional focused on recovery that do a journaling exercise, and then guys are going into their day. They're making breakfast, they're going to work. And then in the evenings, guys are either going to have a 12-step meeting or they're going to have process group. Wednesday evenings, we have something called Recovery Work Wednesdays, where maybe there's a really challenging exercise that I've assigned or the therapist assigned or that they know they need some extra support on. Well, the guys will come together from 8 to 9 in the evenings and do that tough work together, that co-regulation that can take place. And it's a really safe place to maybe unpack some of that deeper stuff. And then, guys are cooking for each other. Guys are making each other dinner during the week and really just learn how to do life together. Evenings at 9:45, guys are doing a check-in. We use an acronym called FACE: feelings, accountability, current stressors, encouragement. And then 10 o'clock, they're turning in their devices. And, we're on 3 acres, heavily wooded. It's a beautiful property, 100 yards away from a lake. So there's opportunity for guys to go fishing and kayaking and paddleboard. So, part of recovery is we're taking something away. We got to add things to it, right? So part of what I really work with guys on is, well, what is going to lead to a full, robust, healthy life, right? And exploring new activities maybe that they've never done, reading different kinds of books, just have guys play golf and never played pickleball, play pickleball, never been on a paddleboard, go do that, right? So it's not just, recovery. We've got to actually enjoy life in recovery, or else what's the point of recovery, right? So, yeah.
Lisa, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell our viewers how they can reach out to you and, if they feel that the program might be a good fit for them, how they can get some more information?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is room2heal, HEAL.org. So again, room2heal.org. And then I'm fine giving out my phone number. People can call me directly. It's 704-621-5065. 704-621-5065.
And partners are welcome to reach out through the website too. We're happy to speak with you directly.
Yeah.
Thank you again, guys. Really appreciate your time. And I think what you're doing is so wonderful and so needed. And I'm thrilled that 2 wonderful people are doing it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.